Top stories tonight in Y News. Another key witness in the drug cases of detained Senator Laila de Lima has recanted his allegations against the lawmaker.
Just a week before the elections, the tandem of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte maintains the lead in the race for president and vice president respectively in the latest survey of Pulse Asia.
The Department of Health advises close contacts of COVID-19 patients to stay at home and refrain from going out during the May 9 elections.
New mandatory evacuation orders have been issued in parts of New Mexico due to the rapid growth of a massive wildfire.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, the 2nd of May, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Elsie Marcos.
First in the news, another key witness has withdrawn his statements accusing Senator Laila de Lima of involvement in the illegal drug trade at the New Bilibid prison. Last week, self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa retracted his accusations against the jailed senator. The palace, meanwhile, says it is leaving it to the courts to evaluate the pieces of evidences against de Lima. Rosa Licos explains why.
In an affidavit signed April 30, 2022, former Bureau of Corrections officer in charge Rafael Ragos said there's no truth to any of his testimonies made against the senator Laila de Lima. Ragos begs the forgiveness of the senator and insists that de Lima must be absolved from the drug charges filed against her. According to Ragos, he was forced to execute his initial affidavits, House and court testimonies against the lady senator because he was coerced by former Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre. In a statement, acting presidential spokesperson and presidential communications secretary Martin Andanar says the palace respects the independence of the court handling the case of the senator. The Duterte administration also continues to trust the Department of Justice and the National Prosecution Service in performing their mandates in investigation and prosecuting the charges against the lady senator. It was on September 5, 2016 when Ragos said he and aide Jovencio Able delivered 5 million pesos worth of proceeds from the illegal drug trade to the residence of Senator de Lima. Ragos retracted his allegations against the lawmaker days after self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa also recanted his allegations against de Lima. Ragos is the key witness against de Lima in one of the two remaining cases. Meanwhile, the palace condemns the statement made by Senator de Lima's lawyer stating that President Rodrigo Duterte is behind the manipulation of the justice system in order to jail de Lima with false testimonies. Andanar reiterates Senator de Lima's case is anchored on her transgressions of the law and has nothing to do with her political views. 3 charges have been filed against de Lima in 2017 and she has been acquitted in one, while the 2 others are pending before the Muntinlupa courts. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Commission on Elections released the schedules of its presidential and vice presidential forums, which will start airing tomorrow, May 3. JP Nunez details this report.
6 presidential and 5 vice presidential candidates are scheduled for the first COMELEC KBP Pilipinas Forum 2022 interview. Presidential candidate Norberto Gonzales will be the first interviewee to be aired at 10 a.m. After an hour, the interview of presidential bet Leo Didi Guzman and his running mate Walden Bello will be aired.
Nasabi namin hanggat maaari, ayaw natin parang PPR lang tayo. isang buong oras yun na hindi naman dapat pini-PR. We have to really know the candidate before or the candidates before we vote on May 9. It is our last chance to know them fully.
The next day, May 4, the scheduled interview of the tandem of Faisal Magundato and Carlos Serapio will be aired at 10 a.m. The tandem will be then followed by the interview of Vice Presidential candidate Vicente Tito Soto, which will be aired at 11 a.m. The interview of Vice Presidential Bet Manny Lopez will be aired on May 5 at 10 a.m., to be followed by Presidential candidate Ernesto Abella. On May 6, the interview of the tandem of Jose Montemayor Jr. and Rizalito David will be aired at 10 a.m. On the same day, the interview of Manny Pacman Pacquiao will be aired at 11 a.m. Candidates will be given 8 minutes for their opening statement to tell their platform and answer the question on how they will lead the country in the challenges and crises it faces. They will be asked questions related to prices of basic commodities, poverty, livelihood, job opportunities, education, healthcare, and COVID response, as well as the hottest topics in the country. The format of the airing will depend on the availability of the candidates. There are 3 options for their interviews. The COMELEC earlier said that those candidates who will not be participating in the forum will be deprived of their privilege to use the e-rally platform of the poll body for their campaign. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine Senate is composed of 24 senators. However, voters may be wondering why only 12 candidates will be elected in the upcoming polls. Nel Maribuhok explains why.
The 27th-section transitory provisions of the 1987 Constitution, particularly in Section 2 of Article 18, states that senators, members of the House of Representatives, and the local officials under this Constitution shall serve until noon of June 30, 1992. Of the senators elected in the elections in 1992, the first 12 obtaining the highest number of votes shall serve for 6 years and the remaining 12 for 3 years. Half of the 24 senators elected in May 1993 were retained until June 30, 1998, while the other half were replaced in the 1995 polls. In turn, the 12 senators who were elected in May 1995 stayed in the Senate for the next 6 years until 2001. This has been the practice since 1995 with the election of dozens senators every 3 years. It means the other 12 senators who won in the 2019 midterm elections will end their term in 2025. Because of the word consecutive used in the Constitution, this allows elected officials to rest or take a break after they max out their 2 terms for senator and then run for the same post and serve the allowed number of consecutive terms again. Because of this, you may observe that some of the names in the roster of senatoriables are familiar and has long been serving in the Congress. In the 2022 national and local elections, there are 64 individuals aspiring to be included in the 12 senatorial seats. An electorate is advised to scrutinize every candidate and choose those who can lead and accomplish their promises, craft laws for the welfare, progress, and improvement of the nation. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The camp of presidential candidate Vice President Leni Robredo remains optimistic despite a slight decline in her numbers in the recent Pulse Asia survey. Meanwhile, Leni Kiko tandem goes back to Northern Luzon in a bid to woo voters in the so-called Solid North. Hardin Delgado will tell us why.
With only 7 days left before the May 9 elections, the camp of independent candidate Vice President Leni Robredo remains unfazed as they aim for victory in the upcoming elections. This despite the slight decrease in the survey numbers of Robredo. In the April survey of Pulse Asia Research Incorporated, former Senator Bongbong Marcos is still on the lead with 56%. Robredo, meanwhile, is on the second spot with 23%, which is 1% lower than her score in the same survey last month. In a statement, Robredo spokesperson Attorney Barry Gutierrez says the latest Pulse Asia survey confirms the upward trajectory and momentum of the vice president. For Gutierrez, Robredo's numbers remain encouraging, even if the survey does not yet capture the recent campaign rallies where thousands of supporters have attended. The camp of Robredo is in high hopes that the success of their people's campaign will continue up to the election day. The latest Pulse Asia survey was conducted April 16 to 21, 2022, via face-to-face interviews with 2,400 registered voters nationwide. It has an error margin of ±2% and confidence level of 95%. Meanwhile, Robredo campaigned in several provinces in northern Luzon, a region considered bailiwick of her closest rival, Marcos. The independent candidate visited Tabuk City in Kalinga, where she signed a mural and met with her supporters. She also visited the province of Abra. In Baguio City, many supporters of the Robredo ticket gather at the Melvin Jones Grandstand for the Cordilleras People's Rally as they defy the so-called Solid North. In the 2016 vice presidential race, Robredo lost to Marcos in all provinces of the Cordillera Administrative Region. As they race against time with the remaining days of the campaign period, Robredo will be touring in 4 provinces tomorrow, starting in Aklan, Antique, Iloilo up to Negros Occidental. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso and Dr. Willie Ong have been placed in a lower rank from the latest Pulse Asia survey. The vice presidential candidate, however, remains optimistic despite the pre-election survey results. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why.
Vice presidential candidate Doc Willie Ong says he's not bothered about pre-election surveys. This after Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso dropped from the 3rd to the 4th rank for the presidential race in the latest Pulse Asia survey. Ong, on the other hand, is still down in the 4th rank. But the vice presidential bull explains he relies more on the result of the actual election.
Meron namang survey na mataas siya, meron survey mataas ako. Merong survey, tsaka sa experience ko dati, tingnan nyo lang yung mga dating eleksyon. Ano yung pre-election survey, ano yung actual result, ang layo ng mga resulta.
The latest Pulse Asia survey was done after the joint press conference conducted by presidential candidates including Mayor Isko Moreno, former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales, and Senator Ping Lacson. Dumagoso was criticized after challenging Robredo to withdraw from her candidacy as a response to the alleged initial offer of the vice president's camp for the withdrawal of the said presidential candidates. But Ong does not regret any campaign strategies and denies any false move on his end.
To be honest, hindi ko nafe-feel bumababa ako. Feeling ko tumataas ako. Dati ganun din nangyari sa akin eh. Ni-start ako number 20, 21, pag malapit na 23, 20, pababa ako na pababa eh. Pero ngayon makita nyo naman yung social media account ko, marami nagsuswitch sa akin, marami nagko-comment na kahit sinong presidente, basta VP ko si Doc Willie Ong.
Today, the Aksyon Demokratiko conducted campaign rally in Quezon City. But for the first time, Mayor Isko Moreno was not present due to an important meeting. Their political campaign scheduled in Quezon Province tomorrow was also canceled. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine National Police Chief General Leonardo Carlos defended the cops in Abra who are facing murder complaints over the fatal shooting incident in Pilar, Abra on March 29. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
The Philippine National Police pointed out the violations made a convoy of Pilar Vice Mayor Jaja Josefina Somera Disono that led to the fatal shooting incident last March. Philippine National Police Chief, Police General Leonardo Carlos said the incident started when a van loaded with bodyguards of Disono allegedly ignored the checkpoint in Pilar Town proper.
They disregarded the checkpoint. There are armed men and there are firearms in that particular incident. But at the end of the day, we have our reason why that the chase or the hot pursuit happened.
Carlos further said there was an intelligence report in connection with the use of armed men in the area.
At saka may intelligence information. Pakinggan nyo yung briefing ng RD. Diba? Gaano na sila katagal na nandun? Hindi naman sila bigla na lang sumulpot na 15 sila na nandun na bigla na lang silang armado. So planado yan on the part of that utilizes this armed group. 15, 12 sila. May umuwi, may nag-leave, mayroong umayaw. Kaya nabawasan. These are the facts that we know.
Despite this, the PNP acknowledges the task of the National Bureau of Investigation, who filed the complaint against the policemen. Murder and perjury complaints were filed before the DOJ against some Cordillera Police, including Procor Director, Police Brigadier General Ronald Lee, Abra Provincial Director Colonel Molly Castillo Cula, Pilar Municipal Police Station Chief Captain Ronald Islabra, and others.
Let them investigate. On our part, kita nyo naman yung video, sinagasaan yung police namin eh. Di ba? The mere fact na may checkpoint in uniform. Sa tingin, yan ang sinasabi. We do due respect to another law enforcement agency and investigating it. Sige, go ahead. Wala kami problema, hindi kami magtatago.
Dishonest Camp meanwhile claims that there were no visible PNP checkpoint in the area at the time of the shooting incident. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health said that even those in close contact with COVID-19 positive patients should stay at home and remain under quarantine on the day of the elections. Aiko Bigel tells us why.
Republic Act 11332 states that if someone is isolated or under quarantine due to COVID-19, they should remain in isolation to prevent the spread of the virus. Health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere emphasized that eligible Filipinos have the right to vote. However, due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, there are still restrictions.
In this extraordinary time, na meron tayong ganitong pandemya, in this extraordinary time na ang bilis kumalat ng sakit, in this extraordinary time na itong sakit na to maaring makapag-produce ng mga severe critical cases at maaring ikamatay ng ibang tao, kailangan nag-iingat po tayo. This is for all of us, not just for your family, pero sa lahat po.
Undersecretary Vergere also said if an individual experiences symptoms of COVID-19, one should just stay at home and refrain from going outdoors on May 9 elections. Even close contacts of COVID-19 patients should remain under isolation.
Ipagpaliban po natin ang pagpunta sa ating voting precincts para hindi na tayo makapag-cause ng infections dito po sa ating mga presinto.
In an interview, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said that family members of a COVID-19 positive should assume to have already contracted the virus since they are living together. The Omicron variant is said to be more transmissible compared to the Delta COVID-19 variant of concern. The DOH also advised candidates to opt for an online meeting de avance if they have COVID-19 symptoms to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Health experts remind everyone that being cautious and responsible amid the pandemic before the elections will give more people a chance to vote on the May 9 elections. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health, or DOH, is looking into the possibility of placing vaccination sites in polling precincts on May 9. An infectious disease expert supports this proposal. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The country needs to ramp up vaccination for booster doses, according to an infectious disease expert. Dr. Edsel Salvania said the government needs to do whatever it can to add a layer of protection amid threats of COVID-19 variants. With this, he expressed his support in the proposal to place vaccination sites in polling precincts.
yeah, I think whatever it takes to vaccinate and boost people, very, very important.
He also adds that the government implemented sufficient guidelines for an organized voting process amid placing vaccination sites in election areas.
Meron naman tayong protocols para makabawas sa risk. Bakit hindi? Lalong-lalo na alam naman natin yung ating mga kababayan ay mas maganda talaga kung convenient sa kanila makakuha ng vaccine para mas maganda rin yung maging uptake.
According to the Department of Health, they are already looking into the viability of vaccination sites during Election Day. DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said it is plausible, however, it might cause more crowding which can lead to possible virus spread.
Pero sa tingin ko, mukhang mas makakadagdag pa sa crowding dun po sa mga lugar ng ating mga botohan. Although we can set up a place which is near the polling precincts, halimbawa isang eskwelahan yung sa botohan tapos katabi na building ay pwedeng maging bakunahan.
Meanwhile, Dr. Salvania said the Commission on Elections should still consider allowing COVID-19 positive individuals to vote. He explains voting is one of the fundamental rights of an individual. However, there should be protocols to avoid COVID-19 spread.
Kung meron namang pamamaraan na pwede silang bumoto na hindi sila makakahawa ng ibang tao, bakit hindi? So may protocols pa yung COMELEC kung papayagan po nila. It's always in consultation with the Department of Health, with the experts, with the IAPF. As long as it can be safely done, I don't see any problem.
The DOH, however, reiterates that the country is still facing a pandemic and it is the government and the citizens' responsibility to make sure virus spread is prevented, even if it means waiving his rights to vote. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Registered voters who remain unvaccinated can still cast their votes during the national and local elections. Meanwhile, the Commission on Elections may conduct special elections in Shanghai, China. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, clarifies anew that neither vaccination card nor negative COVID-19 test result will be required for voters to vote. The most important requirement is that an individual must be an active voter.
Well, very clear tayo, hindi kailangan yung vax card kahit hindi ka vaccinated or fully vaccinated, you can vote.
The wearing of face mask will still be required and adhering some other health protocols. The Commission also reminds all voters not to take a photo or selfie of their ballot because it is prohibited.
Huwag po tayo mag-selfie ng balota or punan ng litrato or picture yung ating balota kasi po makasuhan tayo ng election offense.
Meanwhile, 1 week left before the end of the overseas voting period, but over 1,900 registered Filipino voters in Shanghai, China have yet to cast their votes. This is due to the continuous lockdown in the area. Overseas Voting Commissioner in charge Marlon Casquejo explains they cannot extend the voting period beyond May 9, 2022 because it is prohibited under the Constitution. Thus, the poll body may consider to conduct its special elections in China.
Maybe we can make some adjustment as to how many VCMs that will be needed during the special elections kung talagang hindi aabot. Kasi May 9 malapit na pero wala pa rin, hindi pa rin yung lockdown nila.
The COMELEC stresses to look for a resort for the Filipinos in China to exercise their right to vote. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
In other news, at least 8 people were found dead in a fire incident at Barangay UP Campus Diliman, Quezon City early morning today. Janice Inhente will give us the details live. Yes, Janice, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, William. According to the Bureau of Fire and Protection, faulty electrical outlets could have started the fire incident early this morning in Village A, Barangay UP Campus, Quezon City. The fire that hit the residential community was first reported at 5:20 a.m., was declared a fire out at 7 in the morning. It reportedly started from the second floor of the bedroom of a certain Amaris Artugue.
Batay doon sa initial investigation ng Bureau of Fire natin, ang pinagsimulan nito kasi yung faulty electrical appliance. So sumabog daw yung electric fan. Dahil alas 4 na nga na madaling araw, kasalukuyang kahimbingan ng tulog, hindi nila agad napansin na nagkaroon na ng apoy. So nung nagising sila, medyo malaki na at hindi na makontrol dun sa mismong bahay nila. And mabilis naman siyang tumawid na.
At least 8 individuals, including 4 children, were found dead after being trapped inside their homes as the fire spread quickly.
Hinahanap ko yung panganay ko. Oo. Yung apo ko, yung nasunog. Kainan ko dalawa. Ano kasunod ko?
Yung kamag-anak ko, yung time na nasusunog na, nakalabas pa. So yung mag-asawa sabi na, tara na. Ito, nakalabas yung babae, yung Marica Galyamas, pero bumalik siya. Itong nangungupahan na si Maymay, sinabi na, tara na kang. Di syempre, ayaw pa rin maganda, hinahanap pa yung dalawa niyang anak. Naiwan yung Marica. Yung Marica, di na nakalabas. Natrap na doon sa loob.
Around 200 families were reportedly affected by the blaze. The initial cost of damage was at 150,000 pesos.
Walang-wala, sobra. Halos nangihina kami lahat. Yan, yung mga kamag-anak ko pa, yung mga nasunog. Mag-anak ko pa. Mga tiwing ko, pinsan ko, mangkin. Wala po talaga, as in, lusaw. Wala, ewan ko saan kami maiga, tutulog, kung saan. Kasi as in, wala. Kahit yung mga pera namin, wala. Basta yung bag lang na, madaling bitbitin, yun lang nadala.
Victims were temporarily sheltered in a covered court at Barangay UP campus and Advincula Hall. Meanwhile, the local government is also sending relief goods to residents affected by the fire. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you very much, Denise and Gente, for those updates live from Quezon City.
For the news abroad, fire crews battle destructive fires from entering villages in northern New Mexico. Marvi Delphine will give us the details live. Yes, Marvi?
Elsie, thousands of residents were evacuated on Sunday as strong winds of over 40 miles per hour drove the largest active wildfire in the United States towards the drought-parched valley of Mora. The town is only one of the farming communities in the path of the Calf Canyon fire, the most destructive of the Southwest fires, which are arriving earlier this year due to climate change. Incident Commander Dave Bales issued a warning and some guidelines to the public to help firefighters contain the situation.
It's going to keep pushing us hard. We have over 1,100 firefighters here at this time. And we're well staffed. It's just that we can't put firefighters at risk, and we don't want to put the public at risk. So remember the ready, set, go. Take a look at the evacuation maps. It is real time. If you use that QR code, and please vacate the area for your safety and the safety to the firefighters working in the area.
Meanwhile, at the other end of the mega fire, residents of Las Vegas, New Mexico are preparing to evacuate as the fire approached within 5 miles of homes. The fire has been burning since the start of April and has destroyed hundreds of properties, but thankfully has not taken a life. Back to Elsie.
Thank you, Marvi Delphine, for that live report.
The giant online retailer Amazon will end its paid time off policy for U.S.-based staff employees with COVID-19 from May 2nd. The change follows the availability of COVID-19 vaccines and revised guidance from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The company told workers in a notice sent Saturday that the U.S.-based staff will now get 5 days of excused unpaid leave following a confirmed COVID-19 diagnosis. A spokesperson said workers are still able to use their sick time off if needed.
South Africa's first COVID-19 vaccination plant, Aspen, faces risk of shutting down. Mavian Dog will tell us why live. Maeve?
LC company executive of South African pharmaceutical major Aspen Pharmacare revealed risks of closure after not receiving a single vaccine order, among other issues. To level inequalities in access to COVID vaccines, Aspen negotiated a licensing deal with Johnson & Johnson back in November 2021 to package and sell their vaccines across Africa. But now that donor countries have provided vaccines, the continent has been well supplied, halting Aspen's manufacture for the past month. Aspen Senior Director Stavros Nicolaou says that if they don't receive any orders from Johnson & Johnson and for its licensed vaccine Aspenovax, Aspen's capacity in its production lines will no longer be sustainable. South Africa has vaccinated 30% of its population, and the African Union aims to locally produce and administer 60% of all vaccines by 2024. However, Africa CDC Director Dr. John Nkongasong and regional health officials fear that the halt in vaccine production could compromise the union's goal. Elsie?
Thank you, Mavian Dog, reporting live from Australia.
The civilians were once trapped in the Azov Steel Plant in Mariupol have begun to see brighter days as they begin to be evacuated. Charisse Longbowen will give us the details live. Yes, Charisse, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, William. After weeks of long negotiations and talks of help from allies, a corridor for evacuation was opened for Ukraine civilians yesterday. And today, the first 100 evacuees made it to safety. For the past 2 months, Mariupol was taken by Russia, forcing over 100,000 civilians and troops to seclude themselves in the steel plant. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that those evacuated were taken to a nearby city 140 miles northwest of Mariupol called Zaporizhia. He further addressed the country regarding the first 100 evacuated last night.
Сьогодні вперше за всі дні війни запрацював цей життєво необхідний коридор. Вперше було 2 доби. 2 доби припинення вогню на цій території вдалося вивезти вже більше 100 цивільних, жінок, дітей, перш за все, які рятувалися від бойових дій саме там, саме на Азовсталі.
Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, the U.S. House Speaker, visited Ukraine and personally extended their support and loyalty to defend Ukraine until the war ceases.
We believe that we are visiting you to say thank you for your fight for freedom, that we are on a frontier of freedom, and that your fight is a fight for everyone. And so our commitment is to be there for you until the fight is done.
Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you very much, Charisse Longbowen, reporting live.
Our Kasangbahay. As the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Proverbs chapter 20, verse 12. And it says, "The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made even both of them."
And those are the reasons behind the news of May 2nd, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Elsie Marcos, reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.